What's up guys, Ryan here. Welcome back to the Practical Japanese channel. I want to start this video off by saying this week has been absolutely insanely crazy for me on social media, but I want to say thank you to you all. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Arigato! In this video we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, the 10 best ways to start learning Japanese. I noticed a lot of you guys in the comment section were saying that you don't have time or your schedules didn't work out to go and take a Japanese class. That is why I'm here. These are going to be 10 ways you can start learning without having to take a class. Alright, so the first tip I have for you guys is to learn Hiragana and Katakana. I believe there are a total of 46 characters each, totaling 92, but trust me, it's really not that bad. Learning Hiragana and Katakana in the beginning I think is very important because it will allow you to pronounce the words like how a Japanese person would say it versus just reading it in like the American or English interpretation of it. Don't worry about kanji right away, we'll get back to that later. Moving on to my second tip on how to kickstart your Japanese learning progress is to be very rigid with your vowel sounds. Very rigid. And what I mean by that is, in Japanese, we have only 5 vowels, and that is a, I, u, e, o. That's it. I know in English we have A, E, I, or U, except if you think about it, each of those vowels can make multiple different sounds, like A can be A, or A. But in Japanese, it's just A. So even if you have like 2 or 3 vowels next to each other, you pronounce each of them individually. Unlike English, where we might combine sounds for different vowels, we don't do that in Japanese. So remember, A, I, U, E, O, Ka, Ki, Ku, Ke, Ko, and so on and so forth. Tip number 3 for really building a solid foundation for your Japanese skills is to really be careful of your intonation when learning Japanese words. Now I know for the most part Japanese is not a tonal language like other Asian languages like Chinese or Thai, Lao, Vietnamese, for example. But to some extent, we actually still do have slight tonal differences for many words. If you really want to refine your Japanese skills and have a solid foundation to keep going ahead, I would strongly suggest paying attention to your tone / intonation. If you already understand another tonal language, you'll know what I mean. But here are just some common examples that I can think of for words that are spelled the exact same way, except they are pronounced completely differently and it means something totally different. Here's an example. Igai and igai. Do you hear the difference? Igai is like outside or other than that, but igai is like unexpected. Here's 2 more words for the sake of example. Joshi, which is girl, and joshi, which is like the sentence particles like wa, ga, ni. Okay? So those are just some examples of how your tone can change completely the meaning of the word. So please be very careful of that because I've honestly never heard anybody else say that in a class. Which leads me to my 4th tip for building a strong Japanese foundation, and that is to record yourself, listen to yourself, and be brutally honest with your pronunciation and try your best to fix it or imitate it as close as you possibly can to a native speaker. I mentioned this one because it ties back to numbers 2 and 3, where you want to be very rigid with your vowels or vowel pronunciation, and you want to be very careful with your intonation or your pitch, okay? Sometimes it can be up, down, or flat. I think that's usually how it is. All right, that was fast. Okay, moving on. Number 5. 5th tip is to learn kanji. Now, if you don't already know, kanji is Chinese characters that Japanese people use. Although the meaning is the same as the Chinese meaning, the pronunciation is often different. Now, I know in Japanese we have thousands of characters. I think we have more than 3, 4, 5,000, I don't know. I think the average Japanese person only knows like 2,000 or 3,000. But I would still suggest that you learn these characters because, believe it or not, learning the kanji also increases your vocabulary. So by learning kanji, you increase your vocabulary at the same time. Also, believe it or not, once you actually learn a few hundred kanji, you'll notice that it actually makes reading much easier. This is because the character already has meaning to it, and because there's meaning to it, you know kind of which word. So again, going back to my previous point about the intonation, like for example, ijo and ijo, by seeing the kanji characters, you know how it's pronounced. Versus if you only were to write it in hiragana, although it's spelled the same for both of the words, they're completely different, and it'd be harder to tell which tone to use. Which leads me to my next tip, and I believe this is actually the 5th one. Did I say 5 already for the last one? This next tip is to be patient and learn one character or one word per day. And that's the minimum, and that's really not that hard. Think about it, if you learned one character per day, you would know 365 characters in 1 year. That's more than enough to have a basic conversation. So yes, although having to know thousands of characters might seem a little intimidating, if you just think about it as slowly, one by one, little by little, trust me, you will get there. It makes the task seem much less daunting. All right, moving on. Tip number 6, understanding and mastering sentence particles. Now, these sentence particles are extremely important because it really helps you understand what is happening to each word, and it strings the sentence together. These include those little words like wa, ga, ni, e, to, mo. Now, these particles really help you put the sentence together, and if you just memorize these, and remember that the verb is generally towards the end of the sentence, you can put these different parts of the sentence together, and as long as the particle is correct, people will understand you regardless of the orientation of the sentence. All right, moving on to tip number 7, and that is get as much audio input as possible. And that includes listening to dramas, music, movies, anime. Just keep in mind that much of the Japanese you'll hear in anime is not how we actually talk in real life. But getting as much audio input as possible is important because it'll help your brain start to recognize words that you were learning. So for example, you might be listening to a movie and they'll just be saying blah 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 totoro, blah 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 sushi, blah 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 taberu. And then you'll be like, oh, I recognize 3 words out of that sentence, and then it'll like stick into your brain better. And plus it's entertaining, so it helps to keep the entire process fun. And when you're having fun, your brain actually absorbs information better. Number 8, and that is to speak out loud. Talk to yourself. I don't understand the full science behind it, but I've seen videos, so I'm sure you could YouTube it. But by speaking out loud, it helps to like solidify those connections in your brain better. So for example, if I want to learn the word for textbook, I'm not just going to say the word textbook in my mind over and over again. I'm going to speak it and say textbook, textbook. By the way, the word for textbook is kyokasho. So rather than thinking kyokasho, I'm going to say kyokasho over and over and over again, and that's going to help me. Which ties back to the previous point that I was talking about. When you're watching these anime or movies or drama, try to copy exactly what they say, even if you don't understand all the words they're saying. This will help you, it'll help sink in those words that you recognize, and it'll continuously help improve your pronunciation. All right, moving on. Number 9, and that is to make friends. Honestly, to me, this is the holy grail for learning a language, and that's through friends. In my opinion, there's no better way than with friends, especially friends who aren't that good at your native language, in this case, English probably. This is because it forces you to use the language that you're trying to learn, which makes you speak out loud and which helps, draw those connections, improve your pronunciation. And it's fun. So it's like a triple threat win-win-win in your brain for absorbing the language. Before you know it, 1-2 hours gone by and you didn't even realize it, but you were studying and practicing Japanese for 2 hours. And honestly, this is how I was able to refine my Japanese, because when I first moved to Japan, my Japanese wasn't that good. But I made friends who didn't speak any English, and that just, boom, like instantly, my Japanese just like was way better. So yes, make friends, if there's no friends around you, like if there's no Japanese people wherever you live, I don't know, maybe Idaho. I don't think Japanese people live in Idaho, or at least a lot of them. But you can go online. I'm sure there's other programs out there like Babbel? I think I've heard of Babbel before. I've never used any of these like studying things, but I mean, any way that you can make friends online and then like practice talking, like you teach them English, they teach you Japanese, like trade back and forth. I'm sure that's a pretty good way to make friends and practice that language. All right, so last but not least, tip number 10, and that is to, of course, just go to Japan. Whether that be study abroad, live there for a while, find a job there, find a girlfriend. Hey, that's actually a really good one, tying back to the last one. Going to Japan, of course, immersion is the ultimate way. When you're just surrounded by it, you just become it. So me being American-born Japanese, when I went to Japan, I was not that Japanese, but after being there for a while, I was just like, I am Japanese. I know there's programs like JET that allow you to like work there for a year or two teaching English, and then they kind of help you just live in Japan for a little while. If you're in college, try ask your college, see if they have a study abroad program. Save some money or save some credit card points and take a trip to Japan for like 2-3 weeks and just immerse yourself with everything. And plus, guys, Japan is just a beautiful place in general. So even if you're not learning that much Japanese, there's so much to do, so much to see. It's a beautiful country, super safe, super clean. Nothing but good things to say for the most part about Japan. But yeah, anyway, those were my 10 tips on how to, in my opinion, best build a solid foundation for learning and improving in Japanese. So again, I want to thank all of you who have joined me this week and who have found me. I'm very grateful, and I hope I can continue to add value and teach Japanese in a way that as many of you guys can understand. So if you found this helpful by any means, please feel free to give Totoro and this video a like. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Again, thank you so much for watching. ありがとうございます。また次の動画で会いましょう。じゃあ、またね。